There was some further data and modelling done by NHS England that was circulating within government, which suggested across England, regardless of the current caseload, which we know varies significantly, hospital capacity would be overwhelmed pretty quickly unless something was done. And that basically meant the end of the regional strategy, because no longer could you say, as government ministers have been saying, oh, well, you know what, there's no point closing shops in Cornwall because what difference does that make to the transmission of the virus in Manchester? Well, actually, if the caseload is low, but it's increasing big time, which it is all over England, then very quickly you get to a point where hospitals are overwhelmed, and so you've got to do something about it. And so the whole strategy's been junked, hasn't it?
And you mentioned the Southwest, which is interesting because, OK, cases there aren't very high, but on the slides that have emerged magically from the whole government process, some might say leaked, it shows that the Southwest is one of the first places that would run out of spare capacity in the NHS. Were you surprised when you heard that, Fergus?
Yeah, I was. And looking, it pays some study, this particular graph, talking about surge capacity. There's diamonds and there's red lines. And the first time I saw it, I thought, blimey, forgive me if I have to try to explain that. But it is worth looking at because it shows in each region of England where current capacity will be exceeded. Well, that's already happened in the Northwest. Then where surge capacity built in would be projected to be outstripped, and then even Nightingale capacity, and then if you reduced all non-COVID bed occupancy by 50%, where that would be exceeded. And it shows a succession of these black triangles in December from the southwest, northwest, with the, showing that the NHS will have to turn patients away effectively. The NHS, it says, will not be able to accept any more patients by Christmas week. Now, that is a pretty chilling projection.
Now, Fergus, I remember when we did an episode on Monday and you'd just been to the hospital in Newcastle, and you were saying they were feeling quite chipper there and that they felt they could handle anything that this virus or circumstances wanted to throw at them. Now, that made me think, OK, the NHS is looking pretty good and looking pretty resilient. I mean, it doesn't look that way tonight.
I said that they could handle anything that coronavirus had at them, but at a cost to other parts of the NHS. And that's the key thing. And that's the reason why we're going into lockdown, because it's not so much that we would run out of intensive care beds for coronavirus patients. It's that the NHS could grind to a halt for everybody else. Because back in April, rather remarkably, urgent admissions for heart attacks and strokes and a whole range of things actually fell really substantially. People weren't coming to casualty. They were choosing not to come in. And so the NHS was very quiet for non-COVID things. That's stopped now. The NHS is really busy. And the NHS is always busy at this time of year. Add COVID to that and add the fact that you have to separate up intensive care units between COVID and non-COVID, COVID wards and non-COVID wards. And then you're faced with the situation whereby you have to make a decision. Can we treat this patient? They may have COVID, they may not, because we may not have enough staff to deal with them. And that's the problem. It's, and they said tonight that, they may not be able to provide for the first time care for everyone, which is what the NHS was set up to do. And that's the reason why. It's the potential possible impact on the NHS. That's why we're going into lockdown.